reconvene to an open meeting. Consideration and possible action of items discussed in the closed meeting. No? No action. Okay, and item number 2, we're going to table that. Okay. General manager's report.
We have a couple items, financial report, and then we have 2 short presentations.
I'm going to be going over the financial performance report as of March 31st, 2012. My name is Sandro Garcia, VP CFO. I'm going to just do some highlights on the main categories here. Under gross revenues here, through the end of March, PUB has collected or recorded $82,186,000 gross revenues. Adjusted gross revenues after backing out fuel and wholesale and softmost requirements for $57,173,245. This is the is for calculating the 10% transfer to the city. As of March is $5,717,325. Total requirements, including O&M and debt service, are at $39,744,662, leaving a balance to surplus of $15,394,60, of which $3,682,802 is the net cash transfer to the city, leaving $11,258,000 for PUB use, of which $5,385,000 has gone against our $10,771,000 annual CIP funding budget, and leaving a surplus in the improvement fund of $6,325,342. When we compare actuals year-to-date with budget and prior year, our gross revenues are over budgeted revenues by $4.1 million, and over last year actuals through March by $2.1 million, 57 versus 53.1 and 55.1. Fuel and energy costs are about 6.2 below budget and 22.5 million versus 28, and slightly higher, 800,000 more than last year. O&M expenses at 27.6 fall 4.3 million below budgeted levels at 31.9, and slightly higher 1.8 million compared to 2011 actuals. On the sales side, electric sales continue to be over 2011 levels through the year to date, March 31st, by 14,693,310 kWh. Kilowatt hours, or 2.6%. And you can see here where we pretty much follow the same line as our 5-year average, and slightly over, sometimes under the 2011. We were kind of in line with the actual 2011 for the month of March. Water continues to exceed 2011 levels by 2.7%. We did see consumption of water in the early months exceeding 2011. But from December through March, have seen a drop and lower levels than last year. Same thing on the wastewater. We're still ahead by 1.5%, but between December and March, have seen a downward trend. On the 1,000 kWh electric sales customer, comparing here to other local IOUs, our average bill of $86.83 is the lowest of all the 13 utilities shown here. Next in line would be Amigo at $88.15. Overall, we have 9 utilities over $100 average monthly bill, and 4 over $100. On the previous 12 months comparison, you'll see that ours is the lowest as well, 92.64, versus the next lowest is the Amigo at 94.07. Quite a few of them well over $100 per month average. Compared to other municipal utilities, pretty much in line with all of them. We have a few falling below PUB, a few over, but pretty much all within the same range. That concludes my financial performance report.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
We've got two reports by AG1 on grants that we received and an update on our meter replacement program.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as you're aware, we received a grant for $24.5 million about a week ago, and I thought it was a good time to give you an update on the grants that we have received in the last few years. This is a list of the current grants that we are still working on at this time. The Brownsville-Robindale project, we received grants between 2001 to 2009 for $837,002. The ERA projects, $46 million, and the FM 511-802 Colonia projects, which is the recent grant for $24.5 million, for a total of $86 million. About 86.5, and I'll be talking about each individual project in the next few slides. The bottom part is the Southmost Regional Water Authority microfiltration project. That one is a loan, and I'll explain why I added that on the list for $13 million. The Robindale wastewater treatment plant, this is funding that was provided for improvements to the Robindale plant, which were needed to comply with federal regulations. This is grants that we've received from 2001 to 2009 through the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. There were federal appropriations. This was money that was provided for the Weir project, and they were later transferred to the Robindale project. The American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, the ERA projects, $46 million. These were funds allocated for 13 different projects. We still have some under construction. And this was to replace 30 miles of gravity sewer lines, between 8 and 30 inches in diameter, to rehabilitate 7 lift stations and to remove 11 lift stations from the system. And this was a grant that was given to us in 2009, Texas Water Development Board. And this is the $24.5 million grant that we just received for the 511-802 project. This is a Colonia project. Funding provides first-time sewer services to economically distressed areas. Again, this is a Texas Water Development Board grant. The Southmost Regional Water Authority microfiltration project, this is a loan for $13 million, and this is funding that will provide removal of arsenic and iron from brackish water in order to comply with the new federal regulations. And it's also going to increase the plant capacity from 7.5 million gallons per day to about 11 million gallons per day. And the reason why I added this to the list is in order to get these type of loans, you have to go through the process and apply for grants. And then the Texas Water Development Board prioritizes based on the funding that they have. And then after they finish with the grant money that they have, the funding, they go and make a list of all the different loans that they can provide. And this was divided into 2 different loans, one for $9.2 million. It's a disadvantaged community program, and it's a no-interest loan. And then the other part is $3.7 million, and it's a low-interest loan. It varies from 0.10% to 4.25%. Now, these are the projects that we've completed through the grant funding. The desalination pilot plant project, the Vallehermoso Valle Escondido project, Vallehermoso hookups, with ORCA grants, 511-802, the design part, and the PUB and Laguna Madre grant. And I apologize for the numbers they moved. It's a total of $8.2 million. The desalination pilot plant project, this was the plant that was at the port for $1.3 million. This provided a pilot desalination plant which filters to potable water. Again, Texas Water Development Board grant, and we received that in 2007. Projects completed. By Hermoso Valle Escondido project, this is funding that we received, and it provided first-time sewer services to Colonia areas. And as you can see, we had to divide the project in 6 different phases in order to complete it. The funding was not there at the time, and we received funding between 2001 to 2010 in order to complete the project. The grants came in from Texas Water Development Board, Economically Distressed Areas Program, the EDAP, and the Texas Department of Rural Affairs. That project is also completed. And then we received $405,000 for first-time sewer services, again on the colonias, and this is for the hookup from the main line to the homes, so the customers wouldn't have to pay for that. And this is an ORCA grant. FM 511-802, this was for the actual design of the project we just received funding for through the Texas Water Development Board. And the Brownsville PUB and Laguna Madre grant, this is a $60,000 grant. We partner with them for research and planning for seawater desalination plant. And again, this is a Texas Water Development Board grant. These are a list of projects for grant applications that we just submitted through the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. This is through the Texas Department of Public Safety. They're the state partners through, and this is a FEMA grant. We've applied for all these different grants, and they total about $12 million. We're still waiting for a response on those. We just applied for those grants about 2 months ago. This is a list of Texas Water Development Board grant applications that we have submitted. The project information form was submitted about a month or 2 ago. We're still pending the IUP, the plan that's given by Texas Water Development Board. It's actually the ranking, and then they invite us to either their grants or loans. At the time when they rank the projects, they let us know whether we can either get grants or loans, and at that time, usually if they're loans, we decline, and then we submit those projects again the following year for grants. And this is all the list of the projects, and they total about $78 million. Again, we're waiting on the ranking on these and the invitation. We should know by the end of the summer. So the summary, the grant awards from the completed projects and the current projects, they total about $95 million, and then the $13 million for the loan. Any questions?
Well, I have a comment. I want to congratulate the team on all the grants that we received. That we've received in the past, and the excellent job you're doing with constantly getting out there the applications and all the process, which is a long process for each grant. And I'd like to commend the administration and also your team and everybody that's involved with the grant writing.
It's a lot of different departments that get together, and it's a big effort.
Yes, I've learned. I've met a lot of your writers. Any comments?
As far as, like Dr. Morales said, commend your all staff for all the grant applications that we've received. Is there any other opportunities for maybe collaborating with other grants, like with the city, and kind of integrating some opportunities there?
Yes, actually, we've talked to their grant writers, and they've been sending emails whenever they see an opportunity. We are going to be applying for one grant that's for the Resaca project. It's due July 27th, so we are already working with Ambiotech on that project to be able to submit that project. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
This is an update on the water meter replacement project and leak detection. Some background, the water system, we have 624 miles of water lines, 47,000 water accounts. We produce about 8.6 billion gallons of water per year, and we sell about 7.5 billion. A water audit, that's an assessment of the distribution, metering, and accounting operations using principles to determine how much water is being lost in the system and where we're losing that water. Water losses usually come from inaccurate and failed meters, system leakage, theft of service, inaccuracies in billing and record keeping. The standard for Texas on water losses, they're about 10 to 15%. Most utilities are higher than that due to old infrastructure and limited funding. As the water infrastructure ages, the loss of treated water in the distribution system increases, and the water audits are an important water conservation tool that all utilities use. Back in 2003, the Texas House Bill 3338 requires that all the water utilities perform water loss audits every 5 years, and the program is implemented by Texas Water Development Board. PUB's first water system was audited. The audit was conducted in 1993, and we had water losses greater than 3%. Back in 2007, JBS performed a water audit, and the findings from that water audit were that annual water production at water plants increased at a greater pace than meter sales. Obviously, we had water losses, and there were about 20.5%. Recommendations were to implement leak detection program, to test the water plant production meters for accuracy, and to implement large meter testing program, as well as a meter replacement program. Between 2007 and 2009, we implemented some of those audit recommendations, and what we found out was that the leak detection program, we were surveying about 36 to 60 miles per year. And if you remember from a previous slide, we have about over 600 miles, so we were not doing much to the system. Water plant production meters, we had difficulty in testing for accuracy, and then one of the production meters was estimated to be 14% off calibration. Meter replacement program, we were replacing about 2,500 meters per year, which was only about 5% of the inventory. And then the water losses remain high, and they were increasing. And so we decided to develop an action plan for 2010. We figured we needed to be more aggressive. So the 2010 action plan was to contract JBS again and come and update a water audit after we accelerated the meter replacement program with contract services. So in January 2010, the board approved to purchase an additional 12,628 meters, and we contracted RG3 Utilities to come and help us install those meters. And we also contracted the leak detection services in August of 2010, and we were going to replace the production meters at Water Plant 1 and 2. These are some pictures of the production meters at the plants. The one on the left is the 1994 production meter that we had at one of the plants, and we replaced it back in 2010. So you can see there, it's a pretty big task to replace these meters. This is a meter testing program that we have. We're testing water meters over 3 inches or larger annually. You could see it takes about 4 people to test these meters. So it's a big task. The water meter replacement phase 1 project, RG3 came in and replaced 10,314 water meters. These were meters that were 12 years and older. PUB Cruz replaced about 2,300 water meters, again 12 years and older. And then PUB tested removed the meters for accuracy to determine the potential impact, and we found out that the meters were inaccurate about 10%. And we estimated that we were losing about 70 million gallons per year. This is a graph showing the total meters that have been replaced over the years between 2005 and 2010. So as you can see, the numbers that we were replacing were not that many meters. So 2010, you can see the 12,945 meters that were replaced. The leak detection program, the company surveyed 214 miles of water mains, and we found 39 leaks throughout the system, and we figured we were losing about 29 million gallons of water. Now these are leaks that you can't really see. They're about, some of them are about 3 feet underground. You can't really see them, and if there's a drain ditch next to it, the water might be going through the drain ditch, or you can't really see the leak until it's already really bad, or if it's under a pavement, it could have cave-ins, and so it's not easily detected. This is one of those leaks that we had. Again, you could see where it's been excavated, and that's where we found the leak. In 2011, we decided to hire the JVS and to update the 2007 water audit. It was finishing February 2011. Findings, due to the proactive initiative conducted by PUB, the water loss was reduced approximately from 24% to about 12% by January 2011. The water production decreased while the sales increased. And the recommendations were basically to continue with what we were doing at a faster pace. So we decided to do the phase 2 meter replacement program. So the action plan for 2011-2012 again was to do the second phase of the meter replacement program, continue with the leak detection services, and survey 200 miles of those water lines. Right now, we are working on the bid documentation. It's projected to bid in late 2012. Hopefully, we'll do the contract award by early 2013. We're also going to be testing the production meters that were installed back in 2010. The water meter replacement project, phase 2, right now it's underway. Number of water meters replaced, 11,470. That's the total for the contract. Right now, we've replaced 6,100, more or less, from RG3 utilities. PUB staff has replaced about 2,200 water meters. We're still pending about 3,000, and we continue with the project probably within the next month or two. This is the annual losses that we had from 2008 to 2011. You could see from 22 to about 11.5%, so you're already seeing the difference. Then the next line is the 3 months for 2012 at 11.9%. So we went back from April 2011 to March 2012, the last 12 months, and it's looking like it's going down to about 10.6%. Once we finish with the second phase, we're going to have to wait about another year, and it'll probably go down another % or 2. As far as revenue, the top graph is the water revenue, the middle one is the wastewater revenue, and the third one is the combined. You could see from 2008, it was about 20 million on the water, about 20 million on 2009. It went down 2010. It went up 2011. About 3 million, and overall the combined went up from 2010 to 2011 about $5 million. So we're hoping that once we finish the second phase, that will increase. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Is there any questions?
I have a question. Do you also replace the meters for the businesses?
Yes, all meters.
Especially those that sell water?
Yes. Those are the ones that bring in the most revenue.
Are we looking into, like, you have like electronic meters and things we're looking at, smart meters?
The smart meters, the AMI, I think that's more on the electrical side at this time.
The meter that we're replacing for the residential use have a feature on them where you can put a transducer for the future use on AMI. So that's an attachment that you see ordered later. At least the base and the meter are capable of sending a signal that can be brought into the vehicle.
Yeah, I remember we They did a
We
presentation.
had a presentation on that.
Any other questions?
Yes, and I'm sorry, maybe this doesn't go with this report, but on the operational report, there's differences between what is pumped from the Rio Grande into reservoirs and from reservoirs into the water plants, and there's differences there also. That's not part of this audit?
It's not, because that's raw water. A lot of that water goes into the resacas and they're not metered.
Okay.
So what's metered is what goes from the water plants into the sales. What's already treated.
So that water, the differences that is pumped,
That's
it's just...
just for our information, but it's not really metered.
You have 47,000 customers. We replaced a little, roughly around 11,000 meters right now,
The second
the
phase.
second phase. So when will this project, when do you think will that's all?
Well, the first phase was 12 years and older meters. The second phase, they're newer meters. And then as we're gonna have to wait a few years and then replace another bunch, because the new meters, they usually last about 5 to 10 years depending on, we have to test them. So again, with the second phase, it will be about half of the meters that have already been replaced. So we'll just wait another few years and then do another phase.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Thank you, Gigi, appreciate it. I'd like to, I know item number 4 was next,
Yeah, that's.
but I'm gonna go ahead and move up item number 10
Okay.
to next, which is consideration approval of a resolution awarding contracts to 3 equipment vendors to enable the Brownsville PUB to pursue dredging and dewatering of solids up to several resacas within the city of Brownsville, and appropriating funds and authorizing contract execution in support thereof. Mr. Bruzak.
Mr. Chairman, we did have a workshop earlier tonight on the recycle project. This resolution provides for the award of the contracts to the 3 equipment vendors that were here for dredging and dewatering. I did provide a backup resolution on Friday that had the pricing in it, that you all should have got to replace the one in your packet. An appropriation of funds totaling $5,460,398 is hereby requested by this resolution for the implementation of the recycle project phase 1, equipment purchasing, parts inventory, maintenance, and operator training components as discussed tonight. We are making a recommendation to approve that resolution.
Yes.
I just want to say on that $5,460,000, we do have $2 million available from prior appropriations. And then on item 12, we'll be doing another budget amendment to support the difference.
Thank you. Is there a motion or
There's
discussion?
a motion to approve PUB staff recommendation.
Motion by Mr. Farias.
Second.
Second by Mr. Nakira. Discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Item number 4, consideration approval of a naming opportunity for the University of Texas at Brownsville Alamos Endowed Scholarship Program. Mr. Bruziak.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm asking this item be tabled at the request of UTV.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion, Mr. Garcia, second by Mr. Vasquez. Any discussion? Motion carried. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So motion is to table. Item number 5, consideration and approval of a sponsorship for Salute to Freedom 4th of July celebration, City of Brownsville.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Larry Jopel could not attend tonight. He did send a letter that's in your packet requesting a $3,000 sponsorship for the Salute to Freedom July 4th celebration in the City of Brownsville. And he's asking the board to consider that request or any amount thereof that the board sees fit to help with that celebration.
Any questions or is there a motion?
Is this something that we normally sponsor? Or is this...
I don't think we've ever done this one. This is the first time I've all run across the city. It is a citywide event, 4th of July.
It's a 4th of July event at the iTech building,
Yeah.
at the Midland Mall, or 8 the Midland area. I don't know if you all want to move forward with it or discuss it, or
I make a motion to approve the request for $3,000.
which Farias has a motion. Floor, is there a second? Second, Mr. Garcia. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Item number 6, consideration approval of a sponsorship request from the Brownsville Society of Performing Arts.
Mr. Chairman, the Brownsville Society of Performing Arts is requesting a sponsorship for promoting Latin dance culture and arts in Brownsville. There's information in your packet. I would say if you want to consider a sponsorship for the Brownsville Society of Performing Arts and not the individual that requested it, so that it can be a sponsorship. And I'm not sure if there's anyone here from.
Yes.
Please come up.
Hi, this is Omar Lopez. Oh, thank you. Hello, everybody. This is a request for a sponsorship for funding. I got the BSPA as an umbrella, a nonprofit umbrella organization. This is a Latin dance company, where actually it's a group of teenagers aging from 7 to 12 years old. These are schools from elementary to junior high. And basically, we're promoting trying to improve the quality of life through the performing arts. Right now, we went to a state performing stages at a state level, and right now we're trying to represent Brownsville there in the Rio Grande Valley, and actually the state of Texas at the Puerto Rico stages. So
From what I understand is that y'all went to the state level and then they invited you.
Exactly, based on we got a standing ovation. Actually, our short-term goal was into the state, but we didn't expect that well to perform that well. But actually, now we're into the rush thing, and that's what we're trying to knock in doors so we can get funding for this, promoting the cultural event through the kids. And it's actually these little kids are putting all their time and effort, and also their parents, to actually try to get something to mark the map that Brownsville is here. And actually, I'm trying to even have if this goes through, like having the PUB as the main sponsor of this team, and having actually in every single stage promoting the PUB as the main sponsor of this board, because actually this is it goes to the community. It's back to the community, because we're trying to get these kids to be exposed to every single stage here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, if I could ask, what is the total cost for your trip?
Right now, we're trying to get the flights. It's $500, the flight for the kids. Obviously, one parent, one chaperone has to go. So parents are expecting like around, I adjusted to $1,500 per performer. My team has around 10 to 9 kids performing. So it's just in adding out, we have been looking for knocking doors for fundraisers and sponsorship. We're trying to find from everywhere.
Any other question?
How much you're asking for?
Right now, we're trying to have the main one, because I wanted to really move forward. We're trying to find a sponsorship for $5,000 to get all the flights, and that way we can actually put all the logo of the PUB of the community in all their promotional items, poster, banners. I volunteer for the BSPA and the Latin Jazz Festival. That's the main event here in our community for the performing arts. So that will be recognized to the actual event that PUB is there. Also, I mean, any contribution would be greatly appreciated. I tried to create a package packages. If 5,000 would be like the ideal, but if you consider 2,500 just to get some funding just for help for actual parents, that'll be really appreciated.
Thank you, appreciate it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is there a motion? Table, or is there a discussion, question?
I'll make a motion to go with the silver sponsorship level, $25 million.
I second it.
Motion, Mr. Nakara, second by Mr. Farías. Any questions?
Sure.
All in- Oh, yes.
Is that, would need to award it to the Brownsville Society of Performing Arts and asking them to
Yes, to
supervise
supervise sponsored
the
shows.
to this project.
That's the way it should be done.
Yes.
Motion should-
Okay, yeah, the motion is, you want to read out the motion?
The motion is to do a silver sponsorship level to the Brownsville Society of Performing Arts to support this particular project, the Flava Dance project.
Running the night as cultural production.
The motion was by Mr. Farías and second by Mr. Nakara, sorry. And second by Mr. Farías. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. And item number 7, quarterly investment activity report for period ending March 31st, 2012. Pursuant to Chapter 2256.023 of the Public Funds Investment Act. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, this presentation will satisfy the requirements of the Public Funds Investment Act. I'm just going to do a 3-page overview. On this first page, our yield summary as of March 31st. We can see here that the subtotal for all agencies at $38,587,000 represent 23% of our portfolio and are yielding between 51 basis points or 0.51% and 113, with various maturities here on those agencies. With Wells Fargo, we had $16,320,000 on deposit, or 10%, yielding 1%. And this is pursuant to our depository bank agreement and our earnings credit rate. With the various pools, 50% share, $80,292,000, sharing very low earnings here between 10 basis points and 31 basis points for some commercial paper here within this Texas term pool. We still maintain some monies with Frost Bank under the CDARS program, 1%, $2,009,861 here, earning 48 basis points. And in our money market funds, we have $24,875,474, or 15% there, earning 21 basis points. Our overall portfolio is earning 41 basis points, $162 million here. The share of the different instrument types is reflected here on this pie chart: 50% in investment pools, 1% in CDs, 10% with our bank depository accounts, money market 16%, and agency securities 23%. Overall, our portfolio, as I mentioned, is earning 41 basis points, quite well above the S&P government investment pool index here in the blue line. That concludes my report. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Any questions?
When are you going to start getting 4% again?
2015. August 2015. Write it down.
Item number 8, consideration approval of bid award for annual janitorial services. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, I'm going to have Diane Solitaire come up and explain the process we undertook in trying to secure cleaning services for the sites outside of this facility.
Good evening.
Can you bring this out there?
How are you? The various PUB remote locations. The invitation to bid was advertised in the Brownsville Herald on February 12th and 19th and was emailed to 15 vendors with 2 responding. The 2 vendors that responded were United Cleaning Services and Nunez Cleaning. The janitorial services include the following areas: the SCADA building, purchasing, warehouse office, electrical overhead, inspectors building, water and wastewater construction offices, substation office, underground and meter shop, fleet management offices, analytical lab building, crew building, dispatch and energy control room, baseball park, restrooms, PCB storage building, analytical lab, mechanical room, security guard shed, water plant 1 and 2, Robindale, the north and south treatment plants, the pre-treatment office, lift station, and Palo Alto Control Center. Both vendors who responded provide janitorial services to PUB. United Cleaning Services provides services on a month-to-month basis for 15 areas located around the PUB warehouse yard. The services provided have been unsatisfactory. Nunez Cleaning currently has an annual contract to provide services to 7 remote PUB areas. They have provided excellent service. The term of the contract will be from June 1st, 2012 through May 31st, 2013.
Mrs. Salter, I have a few questions myself.
Okay.
Here on UCS, you say how long have they worked for us, UCS?
We've had UCS for, I want to say the last 5 or 6 years. 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years? And that's what they do cleaning, right?
Yes.
How come just now, or are they just all of a sudden started doing bad service, or?
Well, Hector is the one that usually walks through with them. They do a walkthrough quarterly, or they were doing when we had the contract. Right now we're on a month-to-month basis with them. So Hector usually walks with them to all the areas to let them know where the services need to be improved, and they haven't.
Is Hector here?
Hector, no, I don't think he's here today.
Well, because it concerns me, because they worked for us for 5 years, and just now, or they were doing well, and then all of a sudden they dropped off.
Yeah, and although Hector's not here, we did attach a table, a summary of feedback from different sites, and we're relying on that customer, at the different sites and their satisfaction level. And unfortunately, most of them have highlighted some areas of deficiencies, and that I understand Hector has brought to their attention, but here we are trying to secure a new contract, and we're having to decide how we're going to move forward.
Yes.
I would have liked to see some documentation backing up the pluses or the minuses of the companies. I don't see any of that here. I mean, because saying that they did a satisfactory job or unsatisfactory job, with no documentation, is nowhere in the position.
Documentation.
Well, walkthroughs, on this day, we were told you could find this, that, and the other. But I don't see any documentation.
We're relying on the users and the facility, the other customers, to have something. We just collected the feedback as a survey type of approach.
Like to probably have some type of documentation.
We can try to secure that, more specifics from the customers that have provided the feedback.
Doesn't the contract state that they're going to be doing adequate work or whatever, on the contract?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Is there any reprimands as far as some letters and files where you reprimand them, give them written warning? Do we have?
To the vendor?
Yeah, to the vendor.
Unless Hector has something on file, we don't.
So I think we should, when something like this happens, I would imagine we would reprimand them, give them a letter, give them a written notice, and then date it and have it signed.
We've been on a month-to-month, and they've just been, waiting for this process to get underway and recommend somebody they feel can provide a better quality service. But I'm sure behind the doors, some talking has happened between our staff and the provider.
And another question I have is, we sent out for 15, or he emailed, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. He emailed 15 vendors, and
We invited.
but only 2 responded. And do we know if they get these emails? I mean, it's a lot.
We actually called.
Oh, you called.
I called them and asked them if they're interested in bidding. I get all their information, their email, so it is the correct email address, so I know that they're going to get it.
Is there something in our request that is keeping them from bidding?
Well, it could be the bonds or the insurance. It's usually that. With the smaller vendors, they are not able to provide bonds or insurance requirements.
And so I guess, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I brought up this point that when you have small contracts, you know, maybe we should consider waiving the bond just to, you know, since that might be prohibiting some people in bidding, especially when they're small contracts.
Well, on bonds, I can't waive that. That's a state
That's a
state
state
law.
requirement?
Yeah.
Usually, if it's over 50,000,
Right.
we have to comply with
Did they
staff.
put out a performance bonds or what?
Payment, if it's over
Payment bond.
50,000, it's a payment bond. If it's over 100, it's the performance bond.
One of the dilemmas we're facing is and I'll turn over to legal counsel, but we'd like to get the lowest bid, but based on input from internal staff, we want to get the better quality service, you know, that we're paying for, even though the cost may be a little higher. So we're in that dilemma where, you know, are we obligated to get the lowest bid and try to work out the quality, or
paying for a service that's not getting done? I mean, why pay for the service?
right? And if y'all want to feel comfortable in that area as to the lowest bid, quality, best qualified, you know, we can.
My concern is, you know, what I stress is, you know, write them down, date, and that way you have the documentation, like Mr. Vasquez said, where you can come back and say, you know, set some state, you know, you have before.
Chairman, I have a problem that the paper the chart you gave us states that United Cleaning has operated on unit services from 2009 to 2012, from 2012. And the other company, Nunez, is from 2010 to 2012. Since when are you documenting or saying these things are not happening from? Are you also including items in 2010, 2009, 2011, or are these recent? When are these things happening?
Nunez just recently started doing outside the area here. They've done the pretreatment, Robindale. We've done small informal bids for those remote areas, and we're trying to put everything together into one contract. So they do all the janitorial. Nunez just started doing the cleaning in October 10th. That's if we don't have anything prior to that.
So the survey was conducted on March 8th?
Yes.
In these different areas as far as quality of work provided.
And a lot of the service is done at night, in the evening?
Yes, when nobody.
Yeah, when nobody's. So in other words, in the morning you may show up and it's clean, and then, yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, I think we've all made plenty of good comments here. I move that we go with staff's recommendation and go with Nunez Cleaning Service.
Motion by Mr. Farias, second Mr. Garcia, all in favor? Aye.
I vote yes.
Okay.
I would move to the table and get some documentation to support it.
Well, we have to go with three votes, and then if the motion doesn't carry, because it's not
The
the
motion has
motion.
to pass by majority vote. But the motion has to be that you're taking the most responsible bid, not the lowest bid, because this is not the lowest bid.
No, he did the recommendation, the staff recommendation.
Right.
Just staff
No,
recommendation.
and I stand corrected, that's what I was.
Based on the fact that it's not the most responsible.
Right.
That the lowest bid is not the most responsible bid.
Yeah, so my recommendation is approval of bid for annual janitorial service to the most responsible bidder, Nunez Cleaning Service of Brownsville, Texas, for a grand total not to exceed $70,040.
That was your original
intention of my motion.
That's what I understood.
Let me add one thing. If you table it, it'll also give you an opportunity to get staff, because that's another area of concern we had besides the documentation was, does the 40,000, that bid, represent realistically, based on the sites, the cycles, the weekly, the hours, a realistic cost? And at surface, staff told me it doesn't. But I want to bring y'all an analysis that shows, you know.
At 70,000, it doesn't?
No, at 40,000. At 40,000. You know, we have quite a few cycles within the week, and the different size. And when you do a little bit of math, you know, can you actually expect the quality of the service and the hourly rates to the employees and all that, cleaning and materials and all that? I can let staff do some analysis on that, and then assist with the decision making.
I thought that you already did with the survey.
Well, the survey was just on the quality, the customer satisfaction. The dollars and the cycles and the sites is a different thing, and the numbers on the surface don't add. But
okay, there's a motion on the table. It's a new motion.
Well, no, I made the motion.
Well, but you had to change the motion because you worded it wrong. Correct?
No,
I mean, that's what Mr. Rodriguez said. No?
No.
He was right?
He was just clarifying.
Oh, okay, okay.
He made the motion that's listed as a recommended action that includes the language, the most responsible bidder.
Okay, then we had a second one, Mr. Garcia.
Right.
And then we had discussion.
You had nay, and then I made a motion.
And then you both said, yeah, nay and a nay.
And then I made a motion.
But we don't, but you had 2 nays, we don't know whether or not. You have 2 yeses, 2 nays, and it's up to you to decide which way you want to go. Somebody. Or you decide not to vote and vote next.
Well, I'm not gonna vote.
So that's okay.
That's a nay.
Okay, then make a motion.
I make a motion that we, get, documentation support that we're doing the job. And another thing, and also, let's try and see if we can get 2 more, 2 more people to bid and see if we can get some more bidders in there.
Okay, so that's a motion.
That's just something.
Okay.
We have to reject the bids and rebid it.
Yes.
I have to reject.
Make a motion to reject the bids and rebid it out. Okay.
That's your motion.
I second that.
Second, Mr. Vasquez. Any discussion?
Again, I want to state that documentation is critical. So if you can include that in the future, you won't have to have these problems.
if we're going to reject, we're going to continue month to month with the current providers.
Yeah, you'll have to continue month to month. Any other discussion?
The motion was
To reject, and he's going to rebid it out.
Reject and rebid.
But in the meantime, we
Reject and rebid.
You want a month-to-month bid, but could you rebid it out within the next 30 days?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Maybe
That's my motion.
Okay,
The motion on the floor is to reject the bids and ask for a rebid.
and ask for rebid.
30 days.
And on the second one, Mr. Vasquez. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Are you all in favor? Yes. Yes, motion carries. Okay. Item number 9, consideration and approval of the Brownsville PUB policies and procedures policy. Emilia Guerra and Sheila.
Chairman, members of the board, the Brownsville PUB staff is seeking approval of the policies and procedures policy. Currently, our issue is that we have core level written policies and procedures. We also have some outdated or no written operational policies and procedures. And within your handouts, we gave you a copy of the presentation, and we also gave you a list of our current written policies and procedures we have within the company. For example, in my division, we do have some core level written policy and procedures. For example, our open records and access policy and our marketing, sponsorship, and policies and procedures. We do have on the operational side, on our policy and procedures, we do have an outdated collections for damages to PB property procedures. What we need is a structure for establishing and writing policies and procedures and standards and guidelines. In order to set that goal, what we did is we developed an ad hoc committee and to develop a policy on policies and procedures. On that ad hoc team was myself, Emilia Guerra, our Human Resources Director, Nancy Theo, our Records Manager, Marisa Gaitan, our Organizational Development Administrator, Hugo Blanco, our Training Coordinator, Mary Gamboa, our HR Assistant. We are assisted by Cindy Bryant with HR Solutions and Design. We met with Ms. Bryant for a day. She guided us through the process, and afterwards we had several meetings. The team met several times to finish our policies and procedures. We did submit our draft to executive management and to internal audit. They made some comments and recommendations, and those were incorporated into the draft. The purpose of this policy and procedures is to establish standards to all policies and procedures written at PUB. It is a very comprehensive policy, and it includes standards for writing, reviewing. Those are the list here are the different sections of the policy itself. Includes approving, even training, and it applies to all employees. And it is the absolute authority for the publications of PUB policies and procedures. And also, within the policy, our records management department will play a key role in guiding our employees how to implement the policies and procedures. And organizational development department will provide the training. The benefits for a standardized policy procedures is that for employees, it creates a baseline and sets clear boundaries. It also enables employees and management to understand responsibilities and also addresses our audit concerns. I think when we've had audits done of some of our operational functions, our auditor has expressed some concerns about not having written policies and procedures. Our plan to implement the policies and procedures is we're going to start with training, and the organizational development department will provide training to our management. And our management itself will decide on, will participate and decide on compliance. Basically, we will start with our core policies and procedures, and then also start working on operational policy and procedures, whether they need to be written or updated. For example, in my division, we do have our records access policy and procedures and the marketing one that I mentioned before, and those need to be updated using the standards that we're going to have and the board approves them. And with some of them we'll need to update. In some cases we'll need to actually write policies and procedures. We did meet with the board audit committee, and Emilia Guerra, our HR director, is the one who did the presentation on May 11th, and we presented the draft to the committee for review. What I have given you in the handout that you got, that Ms. Dale passed out to you, we did incorporate some recommendations by the committee members. And they are on page 8, if you'd like to go to page 8 of the draft that Mrs. Stego provided you. We included on approvals that the board will approve all policies and policy procedures documents. And we also added that the executive management and senior management will decide on the levels of approval for procedure documents. So the board will have approval for all policies. And towards the bottom of the page, we also included on distributing of documents. The committee also asked that the procedures will be approved by executive management, but they also want the board to receive copies of those. So we added that in that section as well. It's on page 8, and the sections that were added are underlined. And I think they're also, you have a red tag there, you can see what page it is. So we have incorporated those recommendations that the committee suggested to us. Our next step is to seek approval by the board of directors. Once we get approval, does require signatures. That will be our first policy written under these standards, and we'll need signatures on that policy, and we can get started with the training once the board approves our policy procedures. Do you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Padilla.
Lucy and Leandro, I guess from, policies or procedures are good to give direction, guidance, and control. My concern is not to create so much policies and procedures that become bureaucratic, right? That we have to be efficient in our business practices and make sure that we have common sense on how we approach the business day-to-day operation. My concern is more from a risk management. How much of this policies and procedures are geared to managing risk, you know, because if you're not doing a certain policies and procedures of watching your cash, and then you wind up with a cash shortage of, you know, 100,000, then to me that's more important than writing the policy and procedures on something that doesn't have as much risk, right?
Right.
So I'm just wondering how you all are going to balance that risk management part of this controls.
That's where the core policies and procedures come in place, and we do have some on the list that we provided you, and each department or each function will identify those. For example, Amelia has already identified her personnel policy, they're not hers, but our PUB's personnel policies and procedures. She's going to work on those to update them and incorporate into our new standards. So again, Leandro will be doing the same thing within his division, and you'll have our customer service doing the thing, and we're going to focus on those core first, and then the secondary is the operational. Those are the ones that you usually see when our auditor does an audit. You'll see her results indicate that we have no written policies and procedures. For example, in the case of my department, she did an audit on our collection for damages to PB property, and we had some policies and procedures, but they were outdated. We put them together some years ago, but as we've changed, we never updated them. So we'll work on those secondary.
So on that particular item where, you know, you identify the risk as potential lawsuits or something out there, I just want to be able to, as a board member in picking a policy procedure, what's the reason for this policy and procedure, you know, from a risk perspective, right. You know.
And we can do an internal or coordinate an internal assessment vulnerability type of test or assessment with the managers and directors and have some type of guidance from the internal auditor and the executive team. But definitely we can approach it from a vulnerability assessment, which is what most companies do. To prioritize the highest risk.
Right, because I just say that there's going to be a lot of work, and I prefer that you all work on the areas where we have the most risk as opposed to the opposite.
We don't necessarily have to address it in this policy, but we can approach it from that.
That would be from the management part, from the directors. They need to decide on which ones to work on first, and it has to do with risk. You know, for example, again, in my department, we have the sponsorship, we have the open records, we have records management, we also have safety policies and procedures. Those are the ones we need to work on first and standardize them. Because right now, if you look, if we give you a handout with all of them, they're all different. They don't use the same standard, and we need to standardize them so you see them. You know, it's a PUB.
But I understand that as far as what needs to be first, and I'm just saying the priority should be most from a risk, perspective. Because if not, then you're going to do all this work, and I'll just hate for you all to do all this work, and you're not addressing the main areas that need to be looked at. That's right.
There is some standard criteria for assessing risk, you know, depending on the area of exposure and the process or the people. We can work on gathering that and work with the internal auditor to approach it from that.
That's my perspective. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Any other questions? I personally, you know, because there is a motion for, you know, for action, and I had a couple of days to look at it and go over it, and there's still a lot to understand in my case, you know, and I think I'd feel more comfortable if we had maybe a little, I didn't get the workshop or something to that extent. That's my opinion, because I mean, we want to set up something that's going to last a long time and that's going to be solid, and this is why we're working on it. But there's a lot of questions like Mr. Farias had, and you know, I think we're going in the right direction. We just want to make sure that the right thing's done.
The document itself establishes the standards and the procedures and how, and it goes very detailed on how the document itself has to look like, what's to need to be included. And I think what Mr. Farias is asking more of an implementation. So if the board were to pass this, we could also have a workshop to get some direction from the board, and the staff would also look at the risk, and then we could also present an implementation plan as we move forward. So the board would pass this, then we could go into implementation, and then we could get direction on how to implement it. But this is more of the how-to.
One thing we discussed during the compensation meeting was that you all brought an outside consultant to help you out. But he was here, what, a couple of days, 3 days, 4 days?
One day.
1 day?
And taught us how to approach it.
My suggestion was that maybe you could hire him for a number of days, and he would come in and give you a little more guidance. That was my suggestion.
Well, if the board would like, we would set up a workshop on implementation that would include the consultant and would also include Mr. Farias' concern on selecting how we should start and implement the program.
Any other questions? You do have a question?
This is an action item.
It's an action.
The policy that was passed out to the board in the packet does not incorporate the changes that the committee requested on Friday.
That's what I have questions as well.
Right. On page 8, we underlined the sections that were added based on the committee members' request. And the board will approve all policies and any policy procedure document.
Oh, it's over here. It's in the handout.
It's in the handout. And any procedure that is passed by executive management will be presented to the board. Will get a copy of that, so the board will be aware of everything that's going on.
For approval.
For approval.
Excellent job on this document. I mean, I have no problem.
I'd just like to say that I, as part of the executive team, support this, and like Lucy says, it's a how-to write it out, how to format it, how to do the schematics and outlining, and then the protocols for engineering approvals and adoption. So I would recommend approval, but then if there are changes, we can always revise it because there's a procedure for it.
Right.
I like what you said about approving and having a workshop.
The implementation, separate that.
I agree with that. Is there any motion?
Yes, make it.
Make a motion that Mr. Hernandez said to approve this tonight, have a workshop.
On the implementation.
And that includes the new policy or the new...
Yeah, the one that the board would be approving is the one that's drafted today, that has today's date.
Okay, motion, Mr. Vasquez, second Mr. Farias. Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
The motion is to approve the policies that were handed out at the meeting that include the amendments requested by the audit, and that in addition to passing that, going forward, there be a workshop when it's time to implement.
The implementation workshop.
Yes. That was the motion.
That's a motion, Mr. Vasquez, second Mr. Farias. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 11, consideration approval of a resolution by the Brownsville UB to acknowledge and move to extend great appreciation and support of the commercial off-site project by Space Exploration Technology Corporation. Mr. Bruziak.
Chair, members of the board, Jason Phelps has requested this resolution. There's a copy in your package. Made a couple of minor modifications to that. We had a United Brownsville meeting today on the SpaceX project. There's a public hearing tomorrow night at the iTech Center. There's a lot of support of the community for peers for this project to go out at Boca Chica. And the only thing we changed, the first paragraph, we modified that a little bit. Other than that, and the date is the same as what was in your packet. We recommend approval.
Is there any questions?
I make a motion to approve.
Mr. Vasquez, second. Mr. Nakara.
To approve the handout.
The staff
version.
recommendations, the handout resolution. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item 12, consideration and approval of amendment number 7 for the fiscal year 2012 capital improvement plan budget. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, with this amendment, we are providing funding for the balance of the Resaca equipment that was acted on earlier. The total request was for $5,460,000, of which we already have $2 million. So this budget amendment, and we'll have to revise it, was presented with the agenda at $3,425,000. It should be now $3,461,000. That, along with the $2 million, will complete the funding for the equipment purchases under item 10. This amendment is being funded with a current year surplus. I reported earlier we had $6 million. We're tapping into that $6 million at this point to accomplish this or to support this. Year to date, since October, we have done, as mentioned, 7 amendments, including this one, for a total of $15,370,855 out of prior year surplus and now current year surplus combined. So this is an action item that will amend the CIP budget.
I would make a motion to accept the staff recommendation for the approval of the CIP amendment number 7 for an amount not to exceed $3.425 million.
3.61.
3.461. $3,461,000. Sorry. We're adding 36,000 based on the revised estimates.
Motion, Mr. Garcia, second, Mr. Vasquez. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. And we have consent items. Is there any questions on the consent items? Anything anybody wants to hold? I do have a question. I don't remember which one. I requested just on number, number 6. I have number 6.
I have one.
Okay, we're going to add number 6. 6, and what is it, 5? I have 5, 6, 2, 3. I'm going to go through all of them. Nobody's going home. We're going to withhold items 2, 3, 5, and 6, and we can vote on the rest of them.
On 1, 4, and 7.
On 1, 4, and 7 on the consent items.
I move that we approve consent items 1, 4, 7.
Moved by Mr. Faya, second Mr. Nakara. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item number 2. Consideration approval of contract renewal for the annual safety shoe program. Somebody had a question on that. Yes, sir.
There's going to be an increase on this third year, right?
There is an increase. It's mostly going to affect the employees and a few with a PUB.
A 5% increase?
Yes.
How much will it affect the employees?
I'm sorry?
5%?
5%.
And you put it from what?
The discount is still 17%. It's the price of the boot, and PUB pays the $150 that they're allowed to the employee. So if anything is over the $150, the employee pays that difference.
How much is the cost of the boot?
How much is the cost of the boot?
How much is the cost?
There's a spreadsheet attached that has the different prices, the current price, and previously what the employee would pay, and then the new price. So if you look at item, the third one down, the price increase, the employee cost would be $32, so their price increase is $8 more that they would pay this year than they paid last year.
On the, we had a 3-year contract with them, and this was the third and final year, it says?
Yes.
Now, with them increasing the rate, I mean, does that rate or contract with them, or how does that work?
No, each year, that's how we bring it back to you all. Each year, we ask them if they want to extend it, and they say yes, they'll extend it, but there is a price increase. And so it's up to you all to decide if you want to go with that increase or
if we want to go for a bid?
yes.
The 150 is based on an internal safety shoe program.
Internal?
And yeah, internal. We can up the coverage that PB provides.
Oh, well, we give the $150 to our work.
That's not
to buy the boots.
Yeah, we can up that to 160 or 175. You know, that's an internal.
Yeah, but I'm saying, what type of safety boot is that? I mean, steel toe, you know, that. I mean, I've seen them at Academy for, you know, $120, but you know, I'm not an expert.
They have undergone some safety compliance. If Joanna and Lucy can address that. But we do have safety.
There are certain boots that they can select. They can't just go to the store and pick any type of boot they...
Because electric.
Normally, we set the standard for one, everybody follows it, but it's the highest one.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Joanne, I'm the Safety and Risk Manager, and these boots are a special. They have electrical protection for the electric. We have some that are waterproof. We have, like for the meter readers, we have puncture-resistant soles. So they are specialized depending on the positions. There was a hazard analysis done, and each position was looked at as to what safety hazards they encounter. So these boots are all, have special safety features in them.
Have we had any foot injuries?
No. Well, we did a presentation on workers' comp. I don't think you want to hear that.
Before you get the motion raised,
Yes, please.
There's an attached letter here with no date from the vendor, or no date stamp from PUB received on such date. So there's no date of the vendor nor from PUB. For the attached.
Mr. Rick Flores, purchasing buyer, PUB.
Oh, that was an email that they sent.
But the letter after that has a date.
That's ours.
No, he didn't date it. There was an email that he sent.
Was it email?
Motion?
Yes, I make the motion to approve.
Makes a motion.
Second.
Mr. Farias has a motion to approve staff recommendation. Second, Mr. Vasquez. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 3. Consideration of approval of bid award for 90 +1 pre-stressed and tangent horizontal concrete pole. Mr. Garcia.
We got Eli Alvarez from the engineering department.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
I'm here to receive any comments, questions, or if you'd like me to go through the item itself.
Yes.
Well,
Yes, please do.
my concern was, the reason I asked for this, my concern is, again, 10 vendors only one response. Again, I stress this is their job as far as getting vendors to, go out there and have them bid. More than one, give us an option, 3, 4, 5. The other thing is, they went up conservatively, right? From $4,600 to $10,900.
Actually, that's an out-of-date cost. We actually did purchase some poles in late 2009.
For how much?
It was a total of $8,500 per unit.
Per unit?
Per unit, yes, sir.
Well, because I was referring to this 2007 and 4,600 compared to right now 10,900. I believe Ms. Gomez gave that presentation right now. We went out for some grants.
Yes.
For poles and so on.
Yes, sir.
Are this that much of an emergency? Could we wait on this pole so maybe we can get those grants and just buy those poles with the grants? Versus having to go out there and pay them our money, which will be our money, but still.
Right.
It's for inventory, so, poles, usually lasts quite a bit of time.
Yes.
So
Let me just give you some background on this. These poles are actually for a different type of priority concrete pole, where the grants were more targeted for our high priority units. So our lines are designated differently, and these are for the lower type priority installations.
But they're for inventory, right?
They will be installed immediately. Once we receive them, there's a project ready for these type poles. They will not be sitting on the shelf. That's for sure. Yes, go ahead.
Just wanted to stress the point that Eli made, that these are going to be going into immediate use. We do still have those grant applications out there. Those are going to be the ones that we listed as critical structures are a different kind of construction. They're not spun, but they're a lot more rigid in their construction to withstand the dead end of a conductor or the turn of a conductor. Those again stand as presented for grant funding, but these in this case are needed for immediate use. I understand your request to hold off, but in this case,
how come it says here for inventory? And it doesn't say for immediate use as far as...
They're going into inventory, but they will be assigned to projects as soon as they come into inventory. They don't get issued straight to the job, they get issued to inventory, and then from inventory are issued to the job.
Personally, well, from my concern again is, that as far as the cost, but the other concern is one bid. Personally, I would make the motion to table it, rebid it out, and see what we get.
On the grant application, I just want to mention that we did have, I believe, GIS actually identify the specific poles that were, being considered for replacement under that grant fund. So those are kind of like spoken for, based on their location. So it is.
Again, my motion would be to table it and see what we go out there and see what we get.
I just wanted to let you know, we do send out an acknowledgement page with our bids, and they responded back. The reason why they did not submit a bid was because they don't make 90-foot poles. The largest they make is 70. So I have 5 responses here that told me they don't make that type of pole. And then I do have border states that said they were going to submit, but they didn't. So I don't know why they didn't submit, maybe because they couldn't.
So how many do you have that were going to submit that didn't?
One said that he would submit border states, and he did not submit a bid. And then I have others here that said no, because they don't produce that length of pole. They make only up to 70 feet.
So you have 6 other ones, sir?
Yes, I have 5 other ones here that say the same thing.
And we can't use a 70-footer?
No, not for these particular. Yeah, we're requesting what we need, sir. Let me just make one other point. In that, I guess it's somewhat, some background. In that survey that we took for the grants, the prices are in line with what they gave us for lots of poles that we're ordering. So, I don't anticipate there being much change moving forward, but, it's up to the board and what you all decide.
The grant was one issue that stuck to me right now when Ms. Gomez was there.
Yes.
Regardless of that, my concern is the bids,
Sure.
Come again, just one bid. I've stressed it several times, give us 2 or 3 bids, 4 bids, if possible. That's one thing, my concern.
Okay.
So I will move to table because of the one bid, and I know and then I saw inventory, so I thought you were going to have them there as inventory. Now you tell me, you're going to place them out there. I'm going with what I have right here in front of me. So what I have right here in front of me is one bid, states it's for inventory, so.
Let me clarify. We bring to the board whatever we get. So if we have one bid, then the thing we need to do now is reject and not table. If we're going to reopen it, because tabling that one bid, we need to close. We need to close the process with you, even if it's just one bid, and then reopen it.
Okay, well, motion
my motion then would be to reject and rebid it and see if you can come back with 2, 3, 4 bids. That's my motion.
Motion, Mr. Nakano, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Vasquez. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any nay? Motion carries. Okay, and item number 5. Item number 5, consideration approval to award the annual supply of liquid aluminum-based water treatment coagulant. Who had a question on this one? Mr. Garcia.
The question is that, is it normally our policy to put $1 million bids on decisions on consent agenda items? This is an item.
I put it up.
No, I understand. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it wasn't
something.
staff, it was mine, because it's a routine item, I didn't consider the amount, and we'll take that into consideration, anything over, you set a number, we'll bring it to the board. I mean, but it's a routine item, a large item for the year, but I put it on there, not staff.
No, it's fine. And I think we had a conversation about this. Yeah, went back to the last meeting. It's just $1 million deserves some
attention.
The conversation was about what?
Item on the
Well,
consent.
the amount, but the reasoning for you putting on consent item, this is such a routine item.
Straightforward item, and it is a large for the year, but I mean, there's nothing out of the ordinary about it for chemicals.
I would have a question from you. How many pounds we utilized last year?
3,778,000 pounds.
This year.
For this year.
3,300.
That was last year.
3,300 was last year?
3 million.
3 million.
300,000.
Oh, and so we're estimating 3,700,000.
A little more.
A little more.
But it's at a lower cost.
Any other questions?
So on this particular item, I mean, we followed the request for proposal, and it just came in at the, this is the lowest bid or whatever.
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Mr. Nakira, staff recommendation.
Second.
Second, Mr. Vasquez. Any discussion? Nope. I'm falling asleep. Yes, I'm voting. No, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. I was falling asleep. That's all Carlos closing his eyes. Item number 6, consideration approval of bid award for restoration of underground pad mount equipment and decorative and non-decorative streetlight poles. I'm curious on this company, Utility Restoration Services. I'm not familiar with this company. Can you give me some information on that, or?
Manuel Arredondo, Electrical Operations Manager. Utility Restoration Services has been doing for us like 2 years of work in providing restoration of pad-mounted equipment. For example, in subdivisions, whenever we have a single-phase transformer that is corroding, they go, they sand it, they paint it, they do a restoration. They also do restoration also in streetlights. One of the major projects they did was at the Palm Boulevard. It was beginning of the year. So they restored all the lights that were on Palm Boulevard. I don't know if you noticed, they started looking a little prettier, black. So they were there.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's the only question I had, because I've seen them in different neighborhoods and messing with our boxes and stuff. Like, who's that? Yeah.
Why only for 6 months? Why not for a year?
Usually they will deplete the funds within 6 months. This is the second time we have gone for bids, and usually for the contract will last only for 6 months. They have like 4 crews working or 5 around the city.
So, I mean, it just gets renewed at the same terms and conditions? Or they up the price?
This went out to 10 vendors and also they were one responding. It goes out again.
But it says here that they have the option to renew contract provided for satisfaction.
Again, they're the only one that responded, and they responded by an extension.
Yeah, that's interesting. Still, because you got supposedly the economy's bad. People are looking for work, and we only have one responding. We got 10 companies out there.
So is this correct? They only advertise on the 18th and the 25th, or 18th through the 25th?
Well, we advertised twice.
Only twice.
18th and 25th.
Is that what we do with everybody? That's what we do?
There's actually another company that bid out as Osmos. They are interested and they do a similar job, but the only thing is that they don't do a restoration of poles, streetlights. So they're just back up.
They've come to the pre-bids and they've been there with us, and when it comes time to turn in a bid, they back out and they don't turn one in. I think a lot of this may be because they're doing it online, right? Like the transformer, a lot of the companies that do transformer repairs, they'll do the repair with the transformer taking it to their location, not while it's on the ground there.
Oh, not there directly. Right. Yeah, that's what I've seen them doing, is restoring the transformers.
Yes.
The underground.
Maybe we need to do a survey of people that are not bidding and ask them why they're not bidding, so I guess the board can feel more satisfied that, you know, y'all are doing your job, but for some reason they're backing out, or maybe we just need to learn why people are not bidding.
That form that I told you right now, that acknowledgement form, it gives you a reason there why they are or not, they are going to respond or they're not going to respond, and we have a space for them to submit why they're not responding.
And we can include that if you'd like.
I was just going to say,
put it in there.
We can.
sounds like a good idea if you include it, and that way we can have a little more information.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, that'd be good. And the whole idea is we're about, you know, saving money and opportunities for everybody in different businesses. So is there a motion?
There are motions, staff's recommendation to approve the bid award.
Motion by Mr. Padilla, second Mr. Vasquez, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn? Public? Anybody have anything to say?
No.
No? Motion